So a bit of admin to start off with. Sorry, we've been away for a couple of weeks. Me and Toby have both been moving house recently, as you can probably tell by our very plain backgrounds. But hopefully we're going to be here weekly between now and the end of the season. But Toby, I need to talk to you about Arsenal being in the Champions League semi-finals in general. How do you feel on the back of beating Real Madrid? Obviously, you must have absolutely loved it. 5-1 in aggregate, beyond probably your wildest imagination. Just how do you feel being in the semis at the moment, mate?
Yeah, I mean, just glad to be able to talk about it now. It felt like it was missing a few episodes there to be able to talk about how good Arsenal were and to be able to beat Real Madrid. So we'll make up for that in this little segment now. But yeah, two massive wins, massive performances, especially that first leg win, that 3-0 win with those Rice free kicks. I feel like the Rice free kicks potentially may have even caused a bit of like an undervalue of how well we actually played in that game. I think it was probably the best I've seen Arsenal play for a long time, for a number of seasons. It was exceptional. Everything about our game in that match was amazing. Defensively, they didn't create much. They weren't able to break through the midfield. Going forward, genuinely, it could have been 4 or 5 by the end of the game. And I think to be able to do that, not just in a quarterfinal of the Champions League, but in the quarterfinal of the Champions League against a team of Real Madrid's caliber. I think before that game, there was hope that we were going to win the Champions League. I think it was pretty potentially even like far-fetched hope, it felt like at times. But now it feels like there's actually belief that we can go on and do it. That's how big that result has been in a competition where we haven't had too much luck in recent years.
Yeah, I thought you were absolutely phenomenal, mate. You were not even just the better team. You were hands down the better team. You were comfortable over the two legs. I mean, I made videos reacting to both of them, and I knew Arsenal had the performance in them, but I couldn't believe how well you played and really how poor Real Madrid were. But you have to give yourselves a huge credit for how badly you made them play. I mean, yes, they had deficiencies, but you exposed them thoroughly, and not only just winning at home, but winning away as well, 2-1. I think, yeah, you were absolutely phenomenal. But can you do it again against Paris Saint-Germain, a team who started really, really slowly in the competition? They had to go through the qualifiers. They didn't finish in the top 8, so didn't qualify automatically for the last 16. But in the knockouts of this competition, it's fair to say they have been phenomenal. Beating Brest comfortably in the knockouts, and then beating Liverpool, which is very sad for me, beating Aston Villa, and now coming against Arsenal, the third English side they've got to face in the knockouts. But these two sides, they deserve to be here, and styles make matches, and both these teams it's going to be one hell of a knockout game, isn't it?
Yeah, PSG have completely changed from the team that we played them early on in the Champions League, where, to be honest, we were all over them. We won 2-0. Again, like that Real Madrid game I mentioned, it could have been a few more. And they looked really slow. There didn't seem to be any sort of particular style about them. It felt very sluggish, and it was quite easy for Arsenal on that night. But it will not be like that, I assure you, in the semi-finals. They have completely flipped it around. Dembele now playing up front, Kvaratskhelia coming into the side and looking absolutely incredible. And they've got a really nice midfield balance in there now with Vitinha, Neves and Ruiz. I think it's a fantastic midfield three. And I think it was that midfield three, especially in the Liverpool games for me, that I think really highlighted their quality and how they've gone from a side where they did look a little bit sluggish to completely dominating games and really looking like the much stronger side. So hopefully Arsenal don't see that game that was earlier on this season as how things are going to go, because as you've said, PSG have been possibly the strongest team in the tournament in the knockout stages so far.
Yeah, you could definitely make that argument. And I actually wanted to ask you, because it feels like a very different PSG side from the one you faced in October to now. How do you go into the game? Because obviously, first leg you're at home, second leg you're away. I mean, in the second leg, I think it's going to be very, very difficult. I think PSG are going to dominate possession as they did against Liverpool when they played at home, and Aston Villa. I think they had 70% possession against Liverpool at home and 75% against Aston Villa. Are you putting extra emphasis on the first leg, especially with it being home, that maybe perhaps you have to win? Or are you just going into it as a game of football because there's no away goals? You just think, right? Just win the game in general. Don't worry about taking a comprehensive lead into the second leg. Is that how you're viewing it? How do you think Arteta's going to approach this game?
Yeah, normally I would probably be erring on the side of caution, and I would say we should go in with sort of a balanced system where we should be looking to dominate the ball at least a bit, but not risking too much. Whereas I actually think, and especially the way the games have gone so far for us in the knockout, is that it's going to be really important that we go out really strong in that first leg, as you said, especially at home. And if we can dominate the ball, I think our rest defence is strong enough and set up well enough to potentially sort of prevent too many PSG counter-attacks. I know that's probably where they're going to be looking in that first leg, especially, is trying to counter us, trying to get us in the transition. With that front three of Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, and one of Barcola or Doué, so quick, so skillful, will move at pace and look to really exploit those long balls over the top when our defence is really high. But I still think we need to go out and have a really strong performance in that first leg. Go out quick, try and get an early goal, and then press on from there. Because I think, as you said in that second game, PSG are going to dominate the ball. And I think we will want to go in with a lead so that we are able to sit back. Like we did in the Real Madrid game, we sat back and we still looked really, really comfortable in that second leg. And that's something that I think Arsenal have got quite well this season, is that we can dominate the ball, play it around their box and create some fantastic chances. And then in games where we need to sit back, we look really, really comfortable doing so with such a strong defence. So, yeah, it's a strange one. I really feel like we should go out fighting in that first leg, try and get a good lead because it's important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is very important. When you talked about trying to dominate the midfield there, obviously I think your midfield is probably going to be, if you don't have any more injuries, is probably going to be Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard. And like you mentioned, PSG's midfield is probably going to be Vitinha, Ruiz, and João Neves. How do you compare the two midfields? Because I think Arsenal's definitely has a lot more physicality and running power, but I think what's quite underrated with the PSG midfield is actually their pressing off the ball. I mean, like I said, I was there at the game against PSG when they were at Anfield. I was there, and Liverpool just could not get their foot on the ball. I think Arsenal's midfield is a more technically versatile, so I think they can both be resolute defensively, but also can press aggressively, and then are very good at linking up play between themselves and keeping ball retention a lot better. And I think the whole Arsenal side are actually better at ball retention than the Liverpool one. But I don't think PSG's midfield are going to be any mugs. Do you think that whichever team's midfield has a better game in the first leg may potentially decide the whole tie over two legs?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, and one that I'll certainly be keeping an eye on in the game. I think in both games with PSG's press is so strong, and to be honest, playing out of the back sometimes, Saliba has looked not as good in the most recent games, especially in the Real Madrid game. It felt like he gave the ball away quite a lot. Timber as well from deep, I just hasn't looked as comfortable. I think on that left hand side with Kivior and Lewis Skelly, we've looked a bit stronger. But I think with, as you said, with the way that PSG can press, it is a little bit nervy, and I think it's going to be a case of whether we can get that ball past that midfield press, because I feel like with players like Odegaard, Rice, Partey and Jorginho, because Partey is going to be suspended for the first leg, so it probably is going to be Jorginho in there. I think if we can get past that first line of press and then really start to move with them, I think that's where we can exploit PSG. I don't think they're the strongest defensively, and I don't think that midfield, once that first line of press has been beaten, are going to be particularly good at tracking back and then winning the ball once we've broken that. So I definitely think that's an area where we do need to try and maybe spin quickly, get it moving fairly quickly. But again, as I said, that's such a big risk with playing it out the back like that, where they could nip it and get it to their front three so quickly and so high, where they'd be looking so dangerous. And I think that is where things are going to be strange, with potentially Jorginho playing as a six for us in that first leg. I'm not too sure how much of a drop off. Obviously, defensively losing Partey is going to be big. And I think I would much rather have Partey, if he had to play one game, to play in that second leg. And I think Jorginho, as somebody who can retain the ball really well, will be okay in that first leg. How much of a difference do you think that's going to make with that loss of Partey in the first game, as we were talking about the midfield?
Well, I think it's going to be absolutely massive because I'm still, well, at the time of recording this, we're still not sure 100% if Jorginho is going to be fit. Like, I think we expect him to be fit because I think you can bandage him up and just go, do you know what, mate? Just play for us. It's the semi-finals of the Champions League. I think you'll be fine in terms of motivation. Just get him through it, inject him with whatever he needs to get him through that. I think I think it's going to be really, really tough in that midfield. I think both sets of teams have quality midfielders, and I'm really excited to see how they play against each other. I think this is what makes it quite exciting. I think if it was Real Madrid versus PSG, I think I would have gone. I think PSG are the much better team at the moment. I think they press a lot more. I think they're a team without individuals, and they are more of a system. And I can see them beating Real Madrid. I think because it's Arsenal and because of the way they're probably going to play, they're going to be a bit more defensive. They're going to be pressing PSG a lot better than Real Madrid would do. I think that this game is going to be so tight, and the fact that if anyone's going to call it, and I think you can arguably say this for the Barcelona and Inter Milan game as well, in the other side of the Champions League semi-finals, I think it's going to be so close, and it's going to be fine margins, which is why when I'm looking at this Arsenal side, I'm thinking how are they going to try and attack PSG? How are they going to exploit and impose them? I can see physicality being a huge part of it, which I think Arsenal not only have in the midfield, but also have everywhere. And dare I say it, I think the one area when I compare these two sides, and I think what area of the PSG and Arsenal side do I think absolutely dominates the other, I think it's Mikel Merino against the PSG centre backs in the physical aspect. I think maybe technically on the ball, I think Marquinhos and it's probably going to be Pacho, they're probably going to be fine in terms of on the ball, but I think aerially, dominantly, physically, I think Mikel Merino. And I remember watching the highlights of the Arsenal PSG game in preparation for this. I remember seeing Havertz score that goal from the cross or from the left hand side against PSG in that game in the group stage. Remember thinking to myself, that is just like a perfectly weighted ball into an area, and the defender's not sure what to do, and they're not physically dominant enough to be able to deal with it. And I just thought Havertz was the perfect striker for that game. In this one, Mika Marina has been on absolute fire at the moment, and it's got me questioning about Arsenal, how they set up, who they go with, who they try and buy in the summer. And I just think to myself, I think Mika Marino is gonna be so crucial, dropping in deep, linking up the play, defending deep as well. But also, when he gets forward, I think he's gonna cause absolute havoc. And did I expect to be saying this going into this season, going into the semi-finals of the Champions League, that Mika Marino could be the deciding factor? No, but I think you have to give obviously Marino credit, but I think Arteta as well for finding a solution in the absence of both Havertz and Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and he's been looking really sharp, and I think especially what you said in terms of how he drops off and links the play is really important to how Arsenal play as a whole, and something that Havertz and Jesus, yes, as more natural strikers, more natural finishers, is something that's so important in their game, and a big aspect that I think in terms of this striker hunt that we've heard about all season is that yes, you can bring in somebody who's a better finisher, a better goal scorer, but you still need that link up play is so vital to bringing in the team as a whole. And with Marino, I really want him to play up front, and I've just looked it up as you were speaking then in terms of Jorginho and when he's going to be back, and I didn't realise how long out he'd actually be, and he's probably not going to be back for the PSG game. So scrap what I said on that. My worry is that potentially dropping Marino back into midfield, Rice as a six, and then Trossard up front, which I really would rather not have for all of those points that you just mentioned on Marino and how well he's playing, his physical presence and his link-up play. I think Trossard is such a different player, and hopefully we see somebody else slot into that midfield and keep Marino up front, because as you said, I think he's going to be a really good target for us to sort of bring in Saka and Martinelli as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because if you drop him into midfield, where you can leave him up front, but you've then got to move someone else around, and that's the issue. I mean, do you move Marcelo Skelly from left back into midfield? You could do, but he's doing so well at left back, and him and Kivio, especially in the absence of Gabriel, I do really want to break that up as if they're doing quite well, and that's probably going to be your weaker side compared to a Timber and Saliba, or maybe you put Ben White at right back, move Timber to left back. It just feels like you're making too many changes when arguably the team that beat Real Madrid, that's the side that did really well. Just put the same team out, but that yellow card for Thomas Partey. I remember watching it and just being like, that is such a silly yellow card. I can't even remember what he did, but I think he got into an argument with one of the Real Madrid players. And
Yeah,
I think,
it was after a challenge. It wasn't
yeah,
even him who made the challenge. Did something or said something. It's just, and you could see Rice's face was exactly the same. He was just like, "What are you doing?"
yeah, that was exactly it. I remember seeing Rice's reaction just being like, I think he was just pointing to his head, being like, what are you doing? Keep your head on. And yeah, especially because at the time, I think there was a chance Rice was going to miss it, but thankfully he's not going to miss it, so he will be available as well. Could you imagine against that PSG midfield, Rice and Thomas Partey being injured? So I'll throw it to you, mate. I mean, I think unfortunately you might have to play Mika Marino in midfield. What would you do? Is that what, in the absence of both Partey and probably Jorginho, is that what you would do as well?
I wouldn't. I would try all I could to keep Marino up front. I really, really would. I'd probably rather play Rice as a 6 and Trossard as the 8 than play Trossard up front. I know that sounds absolutely mental. Or I'd even play potentially Zinchenko in midfield. He did play in midfield, I'm pretty sure, against Ipswich. And is, again, a position he can play if Rice is sort of going into the 6. But again, I'd rather have Rice out on that 8. He was so good at carrying that ball forward and getting into more advanced positions against Real Madrid. And I think that's a really good point that you made, that I don't want to change much from those Real Madrid games. It's really important to keep a level of consistency and to have that same starting 11, because I think it's going to, hopefully it's going to be sort of fairly similar games. I think PSG trying to get it to their front 3 very quickly, and something that Madrid tried to do as well that I think we nullified really well. So yeah, I would do all that I could to keep Marino up front.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, but it's just so annoying. It's one of your biggest games in who knows how long, and you don't have your best 11 out there. I mean, even with all the injuries you've had, I mean, I'm talking about the 11 versus the one that you played against Real Madrid, which still has several injuries as well. I want to ask you about some key matchups though, mate, because I'm looking at those wide areas versus those fullbacks for both sets of players, and I think there is going to be some very, very interesting matchups here. I mean, Hakimi probably against Martinelli. You've also got Mendes versus Saka. I think it's going to be really interesting. You've also got Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, Barcola, Doué versus probably maybe Timber, White, Mazza, Skelly. I mean, those wide areas, whoever wins that, and I don't even know which sets of players are going to be playing because of PSG and the fluidity and what position they're going to be playing. Who do you think are going to be the key men, and which battles do you think absolutely have to be won if either side are going to be going through into the final?
Yeah, I think the one matchup for me that looks very tasty is Kvaratskhelia versus Timber. Timber is potentially one of the best sort of one-on-one defenders I've seen play for Arsenal for a long time, and he absolutely seems to love it as well when he stands up against a dribbler. And Kvaratskhelia is not a dribbler; he is the dribbler. He is the take-on man. I love watching Kvaratskhelia play. He's so silky, so slick. Little nutmegs, little flicks, taking on any defender with absolutely no fear. And I think if one of those two players can get the better of the other one in their first sort of take on, I suppose, I think that could set up the rest of the game and get a bit of confidence for Timber if he wins that tackle, or Kvaratskhelia if he gets it past Timber. But yeah, as you said, across the pitch, you've got Hakimi and Mendes as well on the other side for PSG, potentially the best fullback partnership in the world at the moment, up against Saka and Martinelli. And I think Martinelli's struggled a little bit this season. Coming up against Hakimi, I think, is going to be his toughest test all season as well. Just such a good player, Hakimi, both ways, going forward and defensively. Saka potentially may be able to get the better of Mendes, I think is going to be the key matchup for Arsenal going forward, with Mendes obviously liking to get forward as well as Hakimi, so there could be a little bit of space for Saka to do so. But yeah, as you said, they are some really, really nice matchups, and I think it's going to be the case of Arsenal's wingers in that first leg at the Emirates taking on PSG's fullbacks, who are probably going to sit back a little bit more. And in that second leg, I think is where we could potentially see your likes of Barcola, Doué, and Kvaratskhelia really, really shine as Arsenal sit back and give them a little bit more freedom to pick up that ball a bit more regularly?
I don't know, mate. I think those PSG fullbacks, even though they're going to be away in the first leg, I think they're going to be just as attacking as usual. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp when they had Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold bombing on forward. But Hakimi and Mendes are both like that, but they're also quality on the ball, but also can drive. But thankfully for Arsenal, I think arguably they've got the hardest working set of wingers in the Premier League and arguably in world football as well in terms of the defensive work as well. So I don't expect them just to have it all their own way, the PSG fullbacks. I expect Arsenal to really make it hard for them. But at the same time, they are quality. That's what makes it such an exciting game. Maybe we'll conclude on the PSG Arsenal game by just asking, neither Arsenal or PSG have won a Champions League. For which club is winning the Champions League more important for? Because it's massive for Arsenal, and it could be massive for Mikel Arteta as well, after especially all the stick that he's got this season. Luis Enrique himself probably doesn't need the win, but you could argue PSG definitely do. They're building their brand with this big superstars, and now they've gone to more of a team. Now they look like they really have a chance. This could be their year. I don't know the answer personally. I've got a feeling of which one I think it's bigger for, but what do you think?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think maybe this season specifically, it feels bigger for Arsenal. They're not going to be winning any other trophies, second in the Prem and no other cups, whereas at least PSG essentially have already won Ligue 1, and they do have the French Cup final as well in the end of May. In terms of overall, I'd say it's pretty even. It feels like PSG as a club really, really want that Champions League. That's the one prize they've been on for the last 20 years with all the investment into the club. But there does feel like a sense that this team is now built. It's still really young, and you could see them get to the latter stage of the competition over the next few seasons. Potentially the same for Arsenal, but I think with Arsenal's pressure just to win any trophy, that may add an extra little layer on top. And again, with Arsenal, it could feel like they're sort of one chance to do it without your Manchester Cities, without your Real Madrids being left in the competition, without your Liverpools as well. I'd maybe go Arsenal just based on this season alone, whereas I feel like for both clubs as a whole, both so desperate to win the competition that it is massive for both of them.
Oh, yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I think it's massive for both of them, and I think both of them really could do with it, but at the same time, I don't think they need it this season. I think that the quarterfinals against Real Madrid, especially for Arsenal, and for what it did to Mikel Arteta's stock, especially when we were talking about, the year when Man City finally drop off, Arsenal should be there. I mean, they've got no divine right to be there, but I guess the drop has been a bit more than we all probably would have liked, and the injuries haven't helped. But I think if Arsenal could go on and win the Champions League, what that does for Arsenal, what it does for the belief of the players and the fan base, but also for Mikel Arteta, I think it would be even bigger for Arsenal if they were to win it, because I think everyone really admires Luis Enrique and everyone really admires PSG, and I think they will be there more often, more regularly, just because of the fact that they've got an easier domestic league, whereas I think for Arsenal, you don't make it to the semi-finals of the Champions League too often as a club, so if they can make it and go all the way and do it for the first time, even the likes of Chelsea and Man City have beaten Arsenal to it, I think it will be massive for Arsenal. But if we're talking about the other end of the Champions League, Barcelona versus Inter Milan, another tie, which is absolutely massive. And like I said about Arsenal versus PSG, in terms of the styles of the two sides, and I think it's a perfectly weighted 50-50 game, I think this is exactly the same. I have no idea who's going to win this one, but I am absolutely fascinated just to see some fantastic football.
Yeah, and two teams again like PSG going for a treble with Barca top of the league at the moment and in the Copa del Rey final against Real Madrid, and Inter currently joint first of Serie A, and potentially into the Coppa Italia final by the time this episode comes out. Their second leg semi final is tonight as we are recording, so that would be good to maybe keep an eye on and see how things go setting up their Champions League semi final as well. Yeah, what a clash this is going to be. It's going to be so good. I think Barca, we know a lot about this season. They are probably the favourites. You've got Rafinha and Yamal getting Ballon d'Or shouts the way that they're playing. And Inter, I think, are a side that on their day are just as good as Barcelona, but have really gone under the radar this season. Despite finishing fourth in the Champions League table at the start of the season, looking really, really strong, only conceding one goal in the group stage of the Champions League, which is absolutely mental. Beating a really strong Bayern Munich side in the last round as well. I think a lot of people are seeing this not as an easy draw for Barcelona, but I think that people are really underestimating Inter and what they can do.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing is with Inter, I think they will always be an underdog until they go on and take their final step and win it. I mean, even in the final against Man City a couple of years ago, we all thought after Man City had got to the final a couple of years previously, lost to Chelsea, that now finally they'd matured, they signed Erling Haaland, this was finally their year. I think now with Inter Milan being at this stage of the competition again, I think people are now going, okay, yes, they don't spend as much money because financially they just don't have it, not only the team but the league itself. But they're so smart in their recruitment. I think Simone Inzaghi is a fantastic manager, one of the most underrated in the whole of Europe. I think some of these Inter Milan players, I mean, Lautaro Martinez, when you talk about the best strikers in Europe, his name doesn't come up as often as it should. He is definitely, I think, top 10, definitely, in terms of strikers in Europe. I think you could make a case that he's in the top 5 as well. And some of these other players, I mean, Bastoni, when you talk about the best centre backs in Europe, he doesn't get a mention as often as he should. You talk about Van Dijk, Saliba. People probably still talk about Ruben Diaz, even though he's been quite poor, and they don't probably mention Bastoni. I think they're so underrated into Milan that actually I think this could be the time. And now if they were to make it to the Champions League, for I think that would be the second time they made the final in the last 3 years, the people go, oh, we really have to pay attention to the side, because they haven't just sold the best players like they have done in a couple of recent years. They've been able to keep a hold of some of their best players as well, in the likes of Bastoni, DeMarco, and not only that, they've also improved. I mean, some players like Benjamin Pavard have come like sold by Bayern Munich, and now he's knocking out his former team in the quarterfinals. I mean, you've also got to think about Zielinski, Mkhitaryan, I mean, Darmian. I mean, players who have been flops at other clubs and now playing some of the best football they've ever played, arguably, in their whole career at a much older age than you probably expect them to. I think I'm really rooting for Inter Milan, but on the other side of it, Barcelona under Flick this season, like you said, on course for trouble, have been so good this year that if either team were to qualify, I wouldn't complain too much. I'm really excited to see either of them in the final, but man, this is going to be one hell of a tie, and honestly, I could not call it.
Yeah, I think with Inter, like you said, on some of those players that you said, that I think what is so impressive about Inter is that a lot of players in their squad, I just don't think performed well in other systems, whereas the manager and the club have seen these players and thought, Pavard not particularly performing very well at Bayern, switching in between centre-back and right-back, the perfect fit for a right-sided centre-back in a 3. Players like your Darmian and DeMarco's just so well suited to playing as wing-backs, and Thuram and Martinez as well, playing as an old-school front top 2 up there together in this system. It's just so clever the way that they've woven this squad in, and they get such good strengths out of their players in such interesting positions, like your Çalhanoğlu and Mkhitaryan both used to be playing as number 10s, occasionally even almost as like wingers and second strikers, dropping a lot deeper and performing really well in terms of ball retention and ball carrying. It's such an interesting team. But yeah, as you said, up against Barcelona, which is probably the most exciting team this season, I think, in terms of the way that they play and the players that they have. They just look so strong, and even in games like we've seen in the league this season, or also in the Champions League, where yes, they may still be conceding 2 or 3 goals, they'll just go and score 4 or 5, and they have such good creativity across the whole pitch. I think is so key when you also have players like Lewandowski, who are such incredible finishers, where you've got Yamal, you've got Fermin Lopez, you've got Pedri, Olmo, Gavi, Rafinha, all creating chances for one and another, that it's always going to be goals in the end for them. So I think that's where the interesting battle might be, is in terms of Inter and their fantastic defence at times up against this juggernaut attack of Barcelona, is who is gonna crack first in terms of their strengths, really.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect match of styles. Is it going to be Inter with their, I don't even know what to call it, like Inter underlapping centre backs and midfield dropping deep to play, and then Lautaro Martinez and what's his name? I've forgotten his name. The other striker. Oh my god, Thuram. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot his name. Yes, Martinez and Thuram up top, or is it going to be Barcelona and Baude going up forward on the left-hand side, and then them forming a back three, but then playing this ridiculously high line, and then you just got, yeah, like you said, the front three. I mean, I've got the stats of the front three here. Yamal, 14 goals and 22 assists in all competitions this season. Rafinha, 30 goals and 23 assists. That is absolutely mental for someone who used to play for Leeds United. And then Robert Lewandowski, 40 goals and 3 assists in all competitions. I mean, which side is going to crack first, and which side can impose their style of play on the game more and then take advantage of the weaknesses of the others? Because I think it's quite clear to see both sides have strengths and both sides have clear weaknesses. Which side is going to come out on top, I have no idea. And the reason why I think Barcelona are probably going to this game as favourites, even though similarly to PSG Arsenal, like Arsenal are a very good side and like a really good opposition for PSG, and I think Inter Milan are the same for Barcelona, but I think it's all going to be about the attacking quality. And like I said, Lautaro Martinez has been phenomenal. Marcus Thuram has been phenomenal. But I just look at the opposition and I look at Barcelona here, Yamal, Rafinha, Lewandowski, like you said, the front three. It is so good. It is, I mean, Lewandowski and Rafinha are probably having Ballon d'Or seasons individually themselves. And we talk about Liverpool having Mohamed Salah as one, but you got a team who probably have 2. And the other one arguably could be a third as well in Yamal, but he's probably going to win the Young Boy Award. I mean, how do you stop Barcelona's front three? I mean, especially considering they passed the ball so well, but now they got tempo and pace and directness as well, so they can mixing it up as well. So how do Inter Milan stop that? Do they try and man mark them? I mean, they could, and I think that would be incredibly interesting. Do they perhaps sit a little bit deeper and go, well, we're going to be compact and tight, especially with the first leg being at the new camp? I'm not sure how Inzaghi goes about this one, because maybe he tries to just contain in the first leg and win the second leg at home. I think that's maybe more where he's probably going to go, but also the new camp is so big, maybe it's perfect for Inter Milan's centre-backs to be going up further up the pitch. I'm not quite sure. How do you see it, Tubbs?
Yeah, I definitely think that first leg is going to be really key. Barcelona's home form in the Champions League has been pretty exceptional, scoring plenty of goals. The one key thing potentially is that Lewandowski may miss that first leg game out with injury. Could be Ferran Torres playing up front, which I think could be a massive, massive loss for them. And something that I think Inter could, as you said, could really see. And I think they will sit back in that first game. I think they'll see if there's no Lewandowski, and if we can sit back, it's going to take a lot for those wingers, I think, to get something in the box that Ferran Torres is going to be able to do something with, as opposed to Lewandowski when he's coming up against Acerbi and Bastoni and Pavard. I just think he's really going to have to drop out towards the edge of the box. They're going to be playing around, keeping it high possession up there without having a real target to sort of change things up. And I think Inter will be able to go into that game, or they'll think they'll be able to go into that game and really keep Barcelona at bay, look to counter through Thuram and Martinez when they can, but ultimately get that game as low scoring as they can into the second leg. Know that then Barcelona will still have to come at them and still have to try and play attacking football at the San Siro, and then Inter can try and play round them a little bit, which is where I think they could shine in that second leg. With Barca probably going to be pressing really, really high in that second leg, Inter can play players they do pick up that ball really, really deep with their midfielders, get it nice and wide to their wing backs, and exploit those positions where we're going to see Yamal and Rafinha trying to press really high. And that's where the space should be for Inter in that second leg. So if I was Inter and I was thinking if there's any way to beat this Barcelona side, is that would be the best way to go about it for me.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And I think Inzaghi will probably go for something similar like that, because if Lewandowski isn't there, then the front three all have pace, but they don't have that someone to hold the play up. I mean, you don't have a Lewandowski back up at Barcelona, and how could you? He is that good, and that's why they paid the big bucks for him. I do think that Barcelona, I think the midfield arguably could outplay the Inter Milan midfield, which is an interesting thing to say, that I'm hearing myself say it out loud, but I just think that Pedri in that midfield has been so good this season, not necessarily as a number 10, but a bit deeper and more of a number 8 position. I think that he could be the one to unlock that Inter Milan defense if I was to pick someone to do it. And I think that how he plays is going to be such a crucial part of the whole tie in general, because you've always known Pedri's been a really good footballer, and he's had a couple of injury issues now, but the way he's playing now, he's almost the perfect blend of Xavi and Iniesta, but hasn't quite got the consistency week in, week out in terms of the quality. But he is getting there, and I think he is so close that you can start having those conversations and start making those comparisons about how he's playing at the moment. And I think, can Inter Milan, can they stop Pedri? For me, because yes, in terms of the front line, they're all great, and they, like we talked about, I mean, the goals they have, the pace they have, the directness. But if you can stop Barcelona playing, then that could be huge for Inter Milan. And how they go about doing that, I'm not quite sure. Did they try and man mark him? I mean, did they try and get Barella on Pedri? What a matchup that's going to be. I think whoever dictates the tempo of the game more in midfield could arguably win the tie, a bit like with PSG Arsenal as well. But I also think Inter Milan, with their substitutes, I think especially in the strikers, I mean, you got the likes of Taremi, you got Arnautovic, you've got a couple of options there. They can go a bit more direct, and how will Barcelona cope with that? So I think Inter probably have slightly more options in terms of way of playing, but in terms of the general squad, I think Barcelona do have way more options to change the game as well in terms of the midfield. I'm really struggling to see how I'm going to call this, which way it goes. And I'm not quite sure, apart from the managers. Like you said, in terms of how you think Inzaghi is going to set up in the first leg against Barcelona, which manager, more so than arguably maybe the players, I think is going to determine who's going to win this tie and go to the final. And honestly, I can't call it. I just can't call it.
Yeah, it's so tough. It's like with Barcelona, the way that they're playing, it's still so free-flowing and so good attacking, but you do still have that sort of discipline that I think you expect under Flick, and in terms of that pressing and the way that they work together as a unit is really, really exceptional. But Barcelona have not had much luck in the Champions League over the last 8-9 seasons. They don't really seem to have that game management anymore, that sort of real knack of winning knockout games as well as they used to. And I think Flick has definitely brought a sense of that in this season, 100%. I'm just not sure if they have that experience of these sorts of games, whereas I think Inter will have a little bit more of a bite about them. They will have maybe a little bit more of a well-assessed game plan compared to Barcelona, which I think it won't give Inter the edge for me, but it would certainly push them up a little bit more for me, a little bit more experience in that side as well. I think the Arsenal PSG game is a little easier for me to call. This Barca Inter game, it feels like Barca is the safer answer, and if I had to go for one, I would go for Barca. But I think Inter, if any team is going to pull up what I guess would be deemed as an upset, I really do think it could be them. If they can keep it together in that first leg, get it to the San Siro, either a goal down or even, I think they could do it then for sure.
I think all the neutrals really want to see PSG versus Barcelona in the final because of the football they play, how attacking it's going to be, the goals we might be able to see, the quality players, the big names. But I think there is a world in which we do get an Arsenal Inter Milan final, and that's not going to be the one the neutrals want to see. And how that'll go tactically, I'm not even sure whatsoever, because I think Arteta and Inzaghi will try and think counter of the other manager, and I'm not sure that's one final I necessarily think I want to see. I think that's definitely a 1-0 win to either side. I think I don't know. This is my understanding. I'm gonna go with Barcelona. I'm gonna go with Barcelona because if in doubt, what are the individual players gonna do on the day when the chips are down? Lewandowski, Rafinha, Yamal, they have the quality to be able to do it and produce moments of magic, as Inter do. But I think Barcelona have it in more abundance than Inter do. So I think that Barcelona will go through, but I think it's going to be so tight. It's going to be so tense, and I wouldn't be surprised if at the new camp, Inter win the first leg and then Barcelona win the second leg because they have to go for it. I wouldn't also be surprised if Inter win both legs or Barca win both legs. Whatever happens, all I know is I won't be surprised unless one of the teams wins comprehensively in both legs. Then I will be surprised, but I don't think it's going to be one of those ties. I think it's going to be a tie that's not going to be decided until right at the very end. It might even go to extra time and penalties. Who knows? That wouldn't surprise me either, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I agree with you in that sense. I think it's going to be pretty close. I would go for Barca to edge it, I think, but I'm certainly going to be watching both games, and in a way, it's a weird one. I think Arsenal will go through first and foremost. I think against PSG, I think we will get it done and get to the final. I will be rooting for Inter in the semi-final legs as a football fan, and is in terms of I could really see them doing something. I think it'll be quite exciting to see how they play up against Barcelona. I think Barcelona will win, and in a weird way, as an Arsenal fan, I'd rather have Barcelona in the final. I think Inter will be a really, really tough side to play against in a one-game neutral final, and I could see them just getting the better of us in the final. Whereas I think Barcelona, as an Arsenal fan, have repeated the 2006 Champions League final, potentially give us a little bit more of a game where I think we could shine a little bit more. An Arsenal-Barcelona final, as an Arsenal fan and as a prediction, that would be very, very tasty.
Yeah, I think Arsenal will definitely want Barcelona. I think Inter will definitely want PSG. And PSG and Barcelona will want to play each other, I think, as much as that. I don't know, and I don't know what you can take from that really, but I just know that, yeah, Inter Arsenal will be such a tense final. Like I said, I think it'll just be a 1-0 win to either side. And it's been a while since we had like a goal-fested final, so I think neutrals, like I said, I want to see PSG Barcelona. But I think any of these four sides are more than deserving and capable of winning the whole thing. And I think that I'm cautious saying I think Arsenal are going to win the whole thing just because of the fact that obviously it's no. I'm cautious.
You want to say it?
No. Hang on, hear me out. Just because I think it's an English side, and because you see them week in, week out, and you go, what, this side that we see every week in, week out in the Premier League? But you can see clearly in the Champions League, because of they've got something to fight for, it's a knockout competition, how good this team is, with the motivation of, everything's done in the league, we're not really competing for that anymore, we're just trying to get through it, if we're being honest. And because you don't see Barcelona, PSG and Inter week in, week out, there's a bit more of a, oh yeah, they're a great quality side. But then also at the same time, Inter are joint first in Serie A. There's a chance that Barcelona don't go on and do the trouble. They could lose the Copa del Rey final. Who knows? I mean, go ahead. I will say Barcelona and I will say that Arsenal, if I had to have like a second team to bet on, which we're not doing, but I'm going to say Barcelona.
Yeah, it's difficult to not have Barcelona win it the way that they've been playing this season. I think at least with these semi-finals, I think if any of the four teams win it, it feels like quite a good story and it feels like quite a good winner. I feel like we haven't maybe had that in the Champions League for a while. I feel like PSG and Arsenal are both desperate to win it. Both have never won the competition before, but have been playing so well in the competition this year. Both two really good sides to watch. Barcelona, such an elite club, having a fantastic season, and feels like they need a Champions League, given the size of the club and how long it's been since they've really even got to a final, let alone won it the last time 10 years ago. And Inter, it feels like maybe we need an Italian winner for the country as a whole to maybe put a bit more respect on those Italian teams who have been performing so well in European competitions and in their domestic league with some fantastic sides for a number of years now. It feels like a good set of teams that I think both semi-finals are going to be fantastic watches, and the final as well, when we get to that winner, is going to be great. But yeah, I'm going to go for an Arsenal-Barca final and an Arsenal win. I've got to back it, really, haven't I?
Yeah, that's fair enough. I wouldn't expect any less from you, if I'm being honest. I will also go for a Arsenal-Barcelona final, but I think Barcelona will win it. I just think they have so much quality, and those sweet Mikel Arteta tears would be lovely to see. No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
I know you're not joking.
No, mate. I mean, no. I think it's a tough one because as a rival, do I want Arsenal to win the Champions League? No, but if I were to take my bias away from it for a second, I think it's great. I mean, the fact that you've been so awful in the league this year, and that's not necessarily all down to you. I think refereeing decisions, I think injuries have played a part, but I just think that there's been like an overcorrection of, oh, Arsenal are so rubbish, that I'm kind of like, no, go on, win it. I mean, yeah, go for it. Yeah, and the way you played, I think you deserve to be where you are, and we'll see. We'll be here, I mean, after the semi-finals to see how that one goes. If Arsenal are in the final, we will definitely be covering that on the channel. So make sure everyone subscribes. Make sure to give it a like, because we will be here to cover it, whether Arsenal make it or not. But I think now is a good time to move on to the quiz.
Yeah, let's move on to Squad Guesser. It's been a while. How rusty are we going to be in the quiz? We've done 8 rounds so far. Very close in the scores. Mev, you're on 55 and I'm on 57. So yeah, we will be giving each other a starting 11 from a famous game, revealing the player's nationality one by one if it's a club game, or their club at the time if it is an international game. You've got 3 guesses to predict what game it was, and yeah, let's just jump straight into it, Mev. I can't remember who went first last time, so I'll ask you, would you like to go first or second?
Mate, it's been too long, so I'm going to give you your team first, so you're going to guess first.
Nice, sounds good. What formation is that?
So it's a 3-4-3, but the 4 in midfield is a diamond.
Okay.
Yes, and it is a club team as well, so you're getting the nationalities.
So they've got 3 centre-backs and then 4, what, like a DM? Is it a DM, 2 centre-mids and a 10, or a DM, 2 wide players and a 10?
So it's 2 midfielders it's right centre-mid, left centre-mid.
Wow, this is a funky old system.
Yes. And the best part is it's a team that doesn't play the system often. So, yeah,
okay,
maybe that's a little bit.
Thanks for the little clue there. Thank you for the clue. I'll take it.
Okay. So you ready?
Breadcrumbs. Yeah. Let's get into it, mate.
Cool. Well, your first player is the left central midfielder who is Spanish.
Spanish. This is such a weird team. Spanish midfielder. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not even going to throw any names out there. There's too many. I will not guess, and I will ask for my next random player, please.
Sure. And that is the left player in the front 3, and they are Brazilian.
Okay, Brazil. Okay, this is a little bit more help. So Brazilian left wings could be Neymar, could be Vinicius, with a Spanish midfielder behind them. It could be Barcelona. Could be Neymar and Ruiz for PSG, potentially. It could be the PSG side that got to the final in 2020. But I will go for one more at least before I guess, please.
Sure. And your next player is the left centre-back in the back 3 who is French.
French. Okay, I don't think it's going to be any Barcelona sides with a left-sided centre-back. No. A French left centre-back could be Kimpembe. I'm thinking this is going to be a PSG side. He is left-footed and has played there for a number of times. It's got to be. I think it's going to be PSG. Did they play 3 in the final? I'm going to go for it anyway as a guess, because I'll kick myself if I don't go for it. Let's go for the PSG side that lost the Champions League final to Bayern Munich.
Incorrect. That is not the team.
Okay.
So your next player is then the right winger / forward in the front three, who is Argentinian.
Okay, so it's got to be PSG. It's got to be with Messi and Neymar. I don't know what game. Surely it's going to be a Champions League game. Other big games, I don't know if they've had any big cup games or big league games, to be honest. I can't think, so I'm going to go for another player and hopefully that might steer me towards a game.
Okay, well, your next player is the right central midfielder in that diamond, and they are Croatian.
Okay, it's not PSG. Oh, who is this going to be? This could be Barca again. I don't know who that left side is. Oh, could that be Umtiti? Messi, Neymar, Rakitic, Iniesta, Umtiti. What game would this be? There was the Barca Champions League final. But I think that's too early for Umtiti. I don't think he joined till like 2017. He was there he was at Barca in the France World Cup in 2018. I don't think he would be at Barca then. Or do I just go for it anyway? Oh god, this is horrible. Could it be the Barca team that were in the corner taken quickly game and when they lost to Liverpool? That was a semi-final, wasn't it? Let's go for that. Let's go for the Barca game where they lost against Liverpool at Anfield 4-0.
That is incorrect.
Okay. Next player.
Next player is your centre forward, who is Uruguayan.
Okay, right. So we know it's Barcelona. Do I just go for that 2015 Champions League final? I feel like it's too early if that's Umtiti.
Would you like a hint?
Go on then.
It is not a final, but it is a big game, one that you will know.
Oh, it's got to be a semi or a quarter then in the Champions League. I just can't think.
It's been a while, hasn't it, mate?
Yeah, there was the Barca PSG game. There was one where Suarez nutmegged David Luiz. That's the only one I can think of. But I don't know what round of the Champions League that even was. Other semi-finals, it might have been in quarterfinals. Let's just go for that one. Let's go for the Barca PSG game. I don't know when it was or what the score was, but Suarez nutmegged David Luiz and scored. What year was that? That was maybe... I don't even know what that was. 2017 or something? I don't know.
Could I get the score of the game? Do I need the score of the game?
Oh, no, I'm going to change my answer. Is this the Brazil team, not the Brazil team, the Barcelona side in the PSG comeback where they won 6-1 or 5-1? The amazing comeback from Barcelona.
Yeah, I'm going to give you that. Yeah, well
that is a ridiculously generous give from you, so thank you.
No. You've said enough. So, okay. Well, obviously, you did say the comeback. It was Barcelona versus PSG. You said 6-1 or 5-1. It was 6-1. It was in 2017, so I'm going to give you that. I
Okay.
think there was more than enough there that you knew exactly which game it was. So well done. Very tough because it wasn't a formation because they needed to go for it because they lost 4-0 in the first
That
leg.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, how many points did you get in the end?
That was 6.
Okay.
So I feel like that's, if it was any more than that, I would have questioned me getting it. But yeah, I did get that just at the last second. I don't know why I was thinking of Suarez not making David Luiz for some reason, but yeah, obviously it was that ridiculous game.
Yes, yeah, well done, mate. Because you were talking yourself out of it when you were like, "Oh, it's definitely PSG," and then I said Croatian, and you were like, "Okay, yeah, that's Rakitic, and that is Umtiti."
Yeah.
So yes, it
No
was
idea.
Ter Stegen, Mascherano right centre back, PK centre back, Umtiti left centre back, Busquets is defensive midfielder, Rakitic on the right, Iniesta on the left, and you had Rafinha Alcantara, Thiago Alcantara's brother, in the number 10 with Messi,
Nice.
Suarez, and Neymar as the front three. So yes, a very non-traditional Barcelona lineup and team and setup, but they did it in the end. But obviously, Sergio Busquets did not start the game, hence why I thought it was a fun one.
Nice. Okay, cool. So, are you ready for yours?
Oh, I hope it's not as hard as the one I just gave you. But yeah, I am ready.
Okay, so your first player is...
Oh, what team? What formation?
So it's a 4-3-3, and it's a
Okay.
club side.
Club, okay.
And your first player is the left wing, who is Brazilian.
Club side, Brazilian. I don't think it's worth guessing, so I'm going to ask to spin again, please, mate.
Yep, so your next player is the left centre-back, who is Argentinian.
Okay. Argentinian. I don't think there are two. Argentinian left centre back, Brazilian left winger. I mean, I think of Barcelona as well. I mean, Neymar left wing, Mascherano left centre back, and PK right centre back or something like that. But okay, I'm gonna park that thought. I'm gonna ask to spin again, please, mate.
Okay, and your next player is the number 9 up top, Uruguayan.
Have we both gone for Barcelona? Incredible. It was topical, wasn't it? Okay. Could it be Cavani? It could also be Cavani. Your laugh makes me think it's probably just Barcelona, and it is probably Suarez, but it could be PSG. But have they had an Argentinian centre back in recent years? Don't think so. It's been Marquinhos for a lot of it, plus one more. Thiago Silva. No, I think it is Barcelona. Oh, which game? Am I going to guess? No, I need more. Yeah, can I spin again, please, mate?
Yeah, of course you can, yeah. Next one is number 1, the goalie, German.
Great. It helps that I've been researching the team and the matches myself, so maybe I've got a bit of an advantage here. Okay. Brazil was Neymar playing in. What year did they win the Champions League? I don't even remember that. Was it 2015? Okay. Oh, was Ter Stegen in goal in 2015? Victor Valdez. From Victor Valdez, who did they go? It might have just been Ter Stegen. Who did they play in the final? I don't even know. Jeez. Oh, no. Okay, I'm going to say, is it the Barcelona team that won the Champions League final in 2015 by beating... Who got to the final? By beating Bayern Munich.
I'm going to give you that because you
Okay.
said the 2015 Champions League final and you were very generous with mine. It was against Juventus. Juventus in the end. But yeah, smashed it, mate. 8 points. That was the reason I didn't guess the 2015 Champions League final for your one, because I knew it couldn't be. Not because I knew Titi wasn't there. He may have been. I have no idea. But yeah, 8 points, mate. Yeah, it was Ter Stegen, Dani Alves, PK, Mascherano, Alba, Rakitic, Busquets, Iniesta, Messi, Suarez, Neymar. So we've both picked almost the exact same side. 11 for 11. So yeah, you did very well there, mate, to get 8 points, which on our 9th round of Squad Guesser, and if we go by tradition and make next week's 10th Squad Guesser the final round of this type of quiz, We are on 63 points each. So all to play for in the final round, which is very, very exciting. So, yeah, well done, mate. Good score there.
Oh, thank you very much. And same to you, considering it is much harder. But there we go. That is it for this week's episode of the podcast. Sorry again that we've been away for a couple of weeks, but we should have some more regular uploads between now and the end of the season. Make sure you give us a subscribe. Make sure you like this video to let us know you liked it, and comment down below. Also, if you've got a name for the podcast, that would be really appreciated if you can think of one. If not, no worries. Just make sure you tune in next week, and we hope you enjoy.